Hey everybody, how's it going? This is John Breeden. It is May 14th, 2019. It is Tuesday on the show, which means I have the race weekend recap show here today. Coming off a great weekend of racing. I emphasize great. Truck race on Friday was awesome. Cup race on Saturday was even better. Probably the best race of the year, excluding Talladega. And for sure the best mile-and-a-half race I've seen, I think, since maybe Chicagoland of last year when we had that crazy finish with Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson. Just great racing all around. The aero package may not have came through in Dover, but it sure did come through at Kansas. Great action all weekend long. Ross Chastain picked up his first career win in the Truck Series on Friday night, and Brad Keselowski won at Kansas, his third win of the 2019 season. Now, he and Kyle Busch, the only drivers in 2019, have 3 wins, so Brad Keselowski and Kyle Busch going head-to-head right now to see who is number 1 in the Cup Series. I'm going to go ahead and dive into it right here. We had the Truck Series race on Friday night, which was the Digital Ally 250. There's 167 laps. The stages were 40, 40, 87. On the front row for this race was Matt Crafton and Tyler Ankrum. And they went green and 3 and 4 wide on the opening lap. They start this race, and Ross Chastain, who I mentioned, he won this race, got up on the outside going into turn 1, and I think he started like 6th or 8th. He was somewhere on the outside lane. He just made this incredible 4 wide pass on the outside. I don't know how he didn't hit the wall. It was a crazy move. And everybody stacked up behind him. Matt Crafton pulled away with the early lead. And Stuart Friesen, not too long, got up and battled Matt Crafton for the lead at lap 8. And by lap 10, he would clear Matt Crafton for the lead. So Stuart Friesen is out front. Johnny Sauter, who won Dover last week, was slow on the track at lap 21. And he said it was a clutch or drive shaft issue. And he went to pit road. And Brett Moffitt took second from Crafton with 16 to go in the stage. Friesen had pulled out to a 4-second lead, just putting on a clinic so far. And Brandon Jones, who was driving the 51 truck in this race, he spun out with 15 to go. In the first stage, that was the first caution. So they restart with 11 to go. Friesen and Moffitt, they battle for the lead, and Moffitt actually takes the lead the next lap, but don't really know what happened here. He took the lead, and then the next lap, Friesen took it right back. So he would go on and win stage 1. So Stuart Friesen wins stage 1. The top 10 was Friesen, Moffitt, Enfinger, Chastain, Austin Hill, Matt Crafton, Todd Gilliland, Sheldon Creed, Harrison Burton, and Tyler Ankrum. It was a simple first stage here. Stuart Friesen set the tone early, and the big story in the stage was the troubles for Johnny Sauter. He was out early. As a matter of fact, he did go to the garage. I think he did return in the race later on, but he was multiple laps down. And yeah, that was it. A crazy beginning to the race, but other than that, Stuart Friesen was setting the tone early on. And Sheldon Creed, though, was off pit road first. He took 2 tires. And then, in fact, Austin Hill actually stayed out because I think they said he pitted during that first caution when Brandon Jones spun out. So they restart stage 2. Austin Hill is up front. And Sheldon Creed on the 2 tires took the lead pretty easily. Austin Hill got shuffled out. Grant Enfinger was the second. Another crazy restart. They were 2 and 3 wide throughout the field. And on lap 13 of this stage, Natalie Decker got loose off turn 4, spun through the grass on lap 13, and brought out the caution. So Natalie Decker was going after her third straight top 20 in the trucks. Did not happen. She spun through the grass, and this happened multiple times where the splitter will just kind of dig in. It's like a shovel almost when you watch it in slow motion. It just digs into the grass, and then it just destroys the car. And her splitter was completely ripped off. It was a pretty violent incident, and yeah, pretty much just dug in, and it almost looked like the splitter, like somebody just took it off. Like, it wasn't like torn apart, it just completely fell off, what it looked like when it was over. But anyway, so that ended Natalie's night, and so they restarted on lap 20, and Enfinger went 3 wide through the middle to take the lead on the restart. Moffitt was second. Crazy restart. Enfinger going after it early on. And Moffitt was second. And then Friesen and Moffitt would battle hard for second with 17 to go in the stage. And then Chastain and Creed were battling for fourth behind them. So Creed hanging there on those 2 tires. Friesen took the second spot. And then eventually they went to commercial, and Friesen took the lead during this commercial break from Enfinger. And then Moffitt took second as well. So Enfinger was back a couple spots after making that bold move. And yeah, Stuart Friesen would cruise on to another stage win. He swept both stages in this race. The top 10 was Friesen, Moffitt, Enfinger, Chastain, Creed, Crafton, Gilliland, Hill, Ankrum, and Rhodes. A lot more action in the stage, but still the story of the stage was Stuart Friesen was the dominant truck, and restarts, they were a lot of fun. Lots of good 2 and 3 wide action, and looked like, in the cup race as well, when they would hit the back straightaway, it looked like Talladega. It was crazy, just crazy restarts. And Friesen was first off pit road at the end of the stage. So we get to the final stage where we had, looks like 80 laps left. They restart on lap 88. And the front row was Friesen and Enfinger. A hard battle for the lead for a while there. And then Enfinger would squeeze up in front of Friesen. Pulled kind of a slide job move with 79 laps to go. Moffitt would take the second spot the next lap, but then Friesen would come back the next lap and regain it, so they would continue to go back and forth. And then this was when it was really getting good. It was a 3-way battle for a while between Enfinger, Friesen, and Moffitt. So Friesen would go for the lead. He would lose momentum and get shuffled out. Moffitt would regain second again with 75 to go. A good 3-way battle up front. Moffitt and Friesen continue to battle for second. Friesen takes it and sets sights on Enfinger. And the top 3 still nose to tail with 65 to go. Moffitt would lose ground, though, on the leaders with about 60 to go. So then it became just a 2-car battle. And it wasn't really a battle here. It was just more of, they were kind of running single file, but it was still exciting seeing Friesen and Moffitt battle there. And Enfinger would pull away by half a second. This is with 50 laps to go. And by 45 to go, he was ahead by a second. And then green flag stops began, my goodness, with 43 to go. The lead would cycle back, though, to Friesen with 36 to go, and this is why. So I'm pretty sure I have this correct. I may have to go back and watch, just double check, but I'm pretty definite this is what happened. So Friesen comes in for his pit stop. He took 2 tires, but he didn't know it was supposed to be a 4-tire stop. So he left his pit early, and so because of that, he may have not gotten enough fuel in, and then he is informed that he was 3 or 4 laps short. And his lead at this point was by over 5 seconds. So obviously, he would have to go into conservation mode. And Moffitt would get loose underneath Enfinger for second. And this is when... Oh, okay. So he got loose under Enfinger, battling for second. He would spin out. And then Enfinger would scrape the wall and bring out the caution with 29 to go. So a battle for second turned to a wreck. A left rear flat for Enfinger. And, okay, so at this point, I'm thinking, okay, so Friesen's going to come in, right? Like, he pretty much has to. He's 3 or 4 laps short. And this caution came, and he didn't come to pit road. And I'm like, what is going on here? Because they just told him he was 3 or 4 laps short. And he never came in. And so I figured, well, he's probably saving during the caution laps. But, like, you're talking 3 or 4 laps of fuel. That's, what? Got to do the math in my head here. Like 4.5 to 6 miles of gas you have to save. Which, unless you're like, this is no, I'm not throwing shade on Stuart Friesen here, but unless you're like Brad Keselowski is probably the best at it, or, a Kyle Busch or a Martin Truex Jr., Brad Keselowski's won quite a few fuel mileage races. So unless you have a lot of experience with saving fuel in these races, like, why would you stay out? Like, I know, like, granted, yes, he was going for the win, and you don't want to give up that track position. It's late in the race. But there are only but so many trucks on the lead lap at this point. And your top 2 challengers in this race just got taken out in a wreck. And so, they came into pit. And I figured, well, if he comes in pits, he's been the dominant truck. He should be able to get back up there and still have an opportunity to win this race. Now, granted, when they got back going, I don't think Grant Enfinger and Brett Moffitt still finished great. Well, I mean, Enfinger was 7th and Brett Moffitt was 8th. So, yes, it's not the win, but the way I see it, like, you make a mistake like that, I mean, you just got to kind of bite the bullet. Stuart Friesen ended up finishing 15th. So, I think had he came into pit, he would have finished better than that, than obviously what happened when he ran out of fuel. But, I mean, there you go. But I know he's going for his first win, but man, when you make a mistake like that, I think you just gotta bite the bullet, and you gotta. I mean, perhaps points don't really mean a lot, but, well, I mean, they do. If you win the regular season title, you get 15 playoff points. But I still think a lot of people think, oh, well, you win a race, you're in the playoffs, and playoff points matter, but I think some people don't realize that, yeah, it's still a points game. But anyway, so we had a restart here with 24 to go. The front row was Friesen and Chastain, and Friesen would barely clear Chastain here. These two were fighting really hard. Ben Rhodes, who had been hanging around the top 10 most of the night, made a run for second, and then Chastain just put a huge block on him. Nearly wrecked. And then Chastain nearly wrecked again. He came off turn 2, got really loose. This was with 21 to go. Got really sideways, nearly spun out, loses a number of spots. Josh Ryam stopped on the track to bring out the caution with 20 laps to go. And so that set up a restart, 16 to go. Friesen and Rhodes, the front row. They would battle hard, but Friesen would escape with the lead. A lot of shuffling going on behind them in the field. Chastain would go to second with 14 to go. They were 3 wide for third with 9 to go. Gilliland, Rhodes, and Hill. Rhodes would take the spot. Friesen and Chastain were nose to tail at 7 to go. And it's looking like probably Friesen was going to pull it off. Chastain started losing a bit of ground to him. But then, 3 laps to go. Stuart Friesen pulls off the pace. He is out of gas. Ross Chastain takes the lead. And pretty much no contest From there on out, Ross Chastain got his first career Truck Series win. A great race. A lot of heightened drama late in the race. Lots of awesome restarts. Great battles for the lead. A dramatic finish. And I was torn about this finish because I'm a pretty big Ross Chastain fan. And I was happy to see him win. But at the same time, man, I mean, Stewart Friesen has come so close so many times to winning. I think he's had like 4 or 5 second-place finishes in the Truck Series. And hate it for him. That was not fun to watch, but tough to watch Stewart Friesen lose that race. But yeah, I mean, basically the story was Friesen dominated and made a mistake on his last pit stop and ran out of gas, and Ross Chastain won. Good race. And take a look at the results. It's your top 10. We have Ross Chastain, Ben Rhodes, Todd Gilliland, a third place for him. Good run there. Austin Hill and Brandon Jones, top 5, coming back from that spin. We have Matt Crafton, Grant Enfinger, Brett Moffitt, Riley Herbst, and Harrison Burton, the top 10. We have 11th through 20th, Tyler Ankrum, Tyler Dipple, Jordan Anderson, Gus Dean, Stewart Friesen, 15th place. Angela Ruck, Spencer Boyd, Josh Balicki, Sheldon Creed, and Josh Ryan. 21st through 30th, Norm Bennon, Johnny Sauter. He did come back into the race after that drive shaft issue. Finished 22nd. Jennifer Jo Cobb, Joe Nemechek, Natalie Decker, 25th place. And then we had TJ Bell, Austin Wayne Self. Austin Wayne Self, by the way, is back in the Truck Series. He was back last week at Dover. Of course, he failed a drug test a number of weeks ago. Had to sit out a few races, but he went through the Road to Recovery program. He is back. He was reinstated, back with his normal team. He's 27th in this race with an engine problem. And to round out the field, Timmy Hill, Bailey Curry, and Joey Gase. That is your truck race, and they will be at Charlotte next. So we'll have to see what happens there. We have Cup Series to go over now. The Digital Ally 400. Digital Ally sponsoring the whole Kansas weekend. 267 laps. The stages were 80, 80, 107. The front row for this race was Kevin Harvick and Clint Bowyer, which was originally supposed to be Eric Almirola, but I believe they said 11 cars went to the back and included Eric Almirola, Daniel Suarez. Stuart Haas actually had the top 4 spots in qualifying until Eric Almirola and Suarez had to go to the back. Chase Elliott was another one. Martin Truex Jr. was another one. Joey Logano was another one. Those were some of the big names had to go to the back. So here we go. So Harvick leads early on. Bowyer was second. Harvick really setting the tone here early. And Elliott, Logano, and others working their way up from the back pretty quick. And Kurt Busch made a bold 3-wide pass on Stenhouse. And Kyle Busch on lap 8 for 7th place. Pretty nice pass. And Kurt Busch making some bold moves early. And by lap 10, Joey Logano was up to 15th place after starting from the back. And Harvick had checked out to a 2-second lead by lap 18. Starting to see the Kevin Harvick of last year just dominating races. And then Elliott, another car starting in the back, passed Logano for 14th on lap 29. And then Bowyer, I actually missed where Bowyer lost these spots, but he fell back to 4th at one point, somewhere here in stage 1, right before the competition caution. Byron moved up to 2nd, and Keselowski was 3rd. And then they had the competition caution at lap 30. I believe there was some rain the night before. And Byron was first off pit road. And the entire top 10 here took 2 tires. And so they restarted lap 37. It was just an insane restart. 3 and 4 wide Bowyer escaped with the lead, and Harvick was quickly back up to second at lap 43. Kurt Busch was third, and then Harvick regained the lead from Bowyer during a commercial break. Denny Hamlin had a problem. Right rear tire was flat, brought out the caution during the commercial break. Now, he suffered from carbon monoxide poisoning last week in Dover because I believe the crush panel was bent in, and it was allowing all these fumes to get in his car. And it took him I think they said 2 days for him to recover. And I think the exact same thing happened here, except obviously they did a better job of buffing out the side panel, so that would not happen again. But yeah, the right rear go down. Tough 2 weeks here for Denny, even though he has 2 wins this year. But restart with 15 to go in the stage. Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott were up front here, and they battled hard for the lead, and Elliott takes it. And Harvick quickly moved back to second place. And then Harvick would take the lead back with 8 to go in stage 1 and win the stage. I missed how Kyle and Chase got up front. Yeah, I apologize. I missed that. But yeah, somehow there's some sort of pit strategy they were on. They got up front. But the top 10 here was Harvick, Elliott, Stenhouse, Larson, Kurt Busch. We had Buescher, who ran great all night. He was 6th. Keselowski, Bowyer, Jones, and Logano. A great stage. Awesome restarts. Lots of passing. Something we didn't see much of in Dover, at least in that final stage. And Harvick was showing dominance so far. Looking, like I said, looked like the Harvick of old, who still hasn't won this year. Spoiler alert, he did not win, as everybody well knows by now. But anyway, he was off pit road first here. And restart lap 87. And Kurt Busch took 2 tires. He was the leader. And yeah, I must have missed that too. I missed a lot of stuff happening on pit road here. He was the leader, but didn't matter. They would restart here, and Harvick would take the lead from Busch at lap 12 of this stage. And then Chase Elliott moving up from the back, building momentum off that Talladega win, past Busch for second here on lap 16. At green flag pit stops, they begun with 38 to go in the stage. And the lead would cycle back to Elliott with 16 to go. He got out in front of Harvick during the pit stops, and Chase Elliott won stage 2. Not a lot happening in this stage, but the top 10 was Elliott, Harvick, Jones, Bowman, Stenhouse Jr., Buescher again, Kurt Busch, Bowyer, Kyle Busch, and Larson. So yeah, decent stage, but not as exciting as the first. But Elliott was the first guy to go up and actually pass Kevin Harvick in this race. So, yeah, that's right. So they came off the pits. Harvick did not beat Chase off pit lane during those green flag stops. What happened was Harvick got out front. He beat Chase off of pit road, but they got back up on the track, and after a few laps, Chase ended up passing Harvick. So, yeah, it was not just Chase's pit stop was faster. So, there you go. But Harvick was first off pit road during the stage caution. So, here we go. The final stage. They restart on lap 168, so 100 laps to go. And Harvick would fight off Ryan Blaney for the lead. And Blaney and Elliott nearly wreck here. Jones dives 3 wide underneath, nearly clipped the grass. Kind of reminded me of that All-Star, not the All-Star race, but they used to call it the Sprint Challenge, I think. It's the race to get into the All-Star race. And it was Chase and Suarez battling hard for the lead, and Eric Jones just came out of nowhere, and he tried to go 3 wide, and he just drove right through the grass. He tried to pull off a pass in the grass, but that's almost what he did here. Anyway, so this is when things start to pick up. Harvick was slow on the track with 88 laps to go, the dominant car of the race. Alex Bowman takes the lead with 88 laps to go. Harvick comes to pit road. He had either a tire issue or it was because of the trash on his grill, but he said something was wrong with the tire. And DW, I think, pointed out, said something like, well, when you get trash on your grill and those temperatures go up, it can make the balance of the car uneven. So I'm going to assume that's what happened. So long story short, it was something with that trash on the grill. So Bowman's leading, and Kyle Busch is quickly closing up. Now, Kyle had not had all that great of a run in this race, but he was hanging in there, and he was trying to break the record for most consecutive top 10s to start a season because he had been in the top 10 in every race so far this year. And if he got another top 10 this race, he would break Morgan Shepherd's record from 1990 with the most consecutive top 10s to start a season. So he closed in on Bowman, but then Bowman opens the gap back up in the next few laps. And granted, they're closing in on green flag pit stops, so this probably Kyle's car was just falling off a bit. Bowman had a 2-second lead with 60 laps to go. During these pit stops, Ryan Newman's crew left a tire out on the infield grass, just rolled away from the pit box. It was sitting in the infield grass. Of course, that is going to bring out a caution with 50 laps to go. So, they go to pit stops, and Kyle Busch is off pit road first, but he has to come down pit road after he drove through too many pit stalls. And very interesting to hear Kyle Busch's radio. He said, can't say everything he said, but long story short, he said, well, after what I said last week, you know they're going to pretty much screw us over the next week. He said something along those lines. For what I said last week, they're going to screw me this week. How ironic, something like that. And his crew chief said, well, Kyle, we clearly drove through too many boxes. So, and I don't think anything else really said after that. But in case you missed it, Kyle Busch basically said last week the air package, quote, effing sucks. And said something like, you can't pass, which, he was kind of right there in that last stage. But, yeah, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I would bet that this was not to try and screw, well, it wasn't to screw over Kyle Busch, but it was clearly a penalty. And what I did find interesting, though, because obviously this was not a conspiracy theory to screw over Kyle Busch for what he said, but it's funny, say, for example, Kyle Busch, say, he may have had a point, okay? Maybe it was a close call, and they just called it, okay? The fact that it's Kyle Busch, and he says this, saying, oh, well, it's, they're trying to screw me over. I just feel like if this was any other driver, people would be like, huh, that's weird. But the fact that it's Kyle Busch, everybody's just going to be like, come on, he's just complaining. He's a whiner. It's weird to me, and it's like anybody else who said it, they'd be like, that's interesting. But the fact that Kyle says it, people don't want to listen. But nonetheless, tough break, though, for Kyle. He was going for that record-setting top 10 finish. But still 3 wins to his credit in 2019. So anyway, they had a restart with 42 to go. The front row was Bowman and Elliott. They waved off the restart multiple times. My goodness, was I mad at this. So everybody's trying to get in line. Everybody's trying to figure out where they're supposed to be. Jimmy Johnson was one of the big ones. It's those restarts where they're double file, they're getting ready to go, and somebody realized, wait a second, I'm not in the spot I'm supposed to be in. I'm supposed to be up there or wherever. And Jimmy's just kind of riding next to whoever, and they're trying to decide what's going on. And something like Eric Jones stayed out because they were in the middle of green flag pit stops when this caution came out. And it was something like, well, Eric Jones, their crew chief, was arguing well, we're supposed to be the leader. We stayed out and all this other stuff. And the announcers are just completely denying it. No, there's no way, because, Bowman hadn't even came to pit yet. But it was, long story short, this was just a mess. And everybody was just trying to figure out where to go. They finally restarted with 39 to go. But, dude, what they need to do is they need to just let them go. They need to, you know what I'm saying? They need to just restart. And whoever's out of line complaining, just penalize them. Just penalize them. Because you know what? I mean, if you have a case that you might be in a certain position, whatever. But this Eric Jones thing, I don't know what was going on there. But anyway, I thought they should have just restarted. But perhaps maybe some of them have a point. So anyway, 39 to go. Elliott took the lead from Bowman on the inside. And Chase is out front. Bowman is closely running behind him. And Ryan Blaney's rear tire comes apart. And that brings out the caution with 27 to go. And I thought at this point, Bowman was staying right on Elliott. It clearly looked like Bowman had the better car than Chase. And I was like, man, if they're going to have this restart and something's going to happen. And Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was up there all race long. We'll get to him in a minute. But I thought for sure, I'm like, man, Stenhouse is he's going to do something crazy here. And my goodness, he did. So anyway, Harvick gets the free pass here, so he's back in the race. Less than 30 to go. 23 to go on the restart. Stenhouse Jr. made a three wide pass, not on this lap, but the next lap after the restart, and took the lead with 22 to go. Kyle Busch, the field, by the way, just running 3 and 4 wide behind them. I can't tell you every single pass, obviously, but during all this, everybody's just going crazy behind him. Kyle Busch and Clint Bowyer, they make contact. They were going 4 wide down the front stretch. Bowyer was coming up the track a bit. Kyle was going down a little bit. Gave him a tire rub. Comes to the pits. So Kyle's chance at breaking that top 10 record thrashed right here. And then Bowman would slide past Ricky Stenhouse Jr. with 19 to go, takes the lead back. Keselowski goes to second. And then Bowman right here was doing a good job fending off Keselowski. Keselowski kept getting big runs off turn 2, but Bowman would get the better run down in the corners, would keep him away. And then Brad would get a huge run off 2 again. Get to his outside, going into 3. There was a lap car on the bottom of the track. He would use that as a pick and took the lead with 7 to go. So Brad Keselowski spoiling the party for Alex Bowman, trying to get his first career win. Eric Jones takes second the next lap. Matt DiBenedetto has an engine failure with 4 to go. That brings out the caution, the overtime restart. Thinking, man, this is going to be a crazy restart. My prediction was everybody, every single restart, by the way, I have not harped on how awesome these restarts were. These restarts were 3 and 4 wide every single restart. You thought they were going to wreck. They kept it together. It was craziness. They were slicing and dicing each other. It was chaos on every single one of these restarts. So I thought on this overtime restart, okay, what's going to happen is everybody's going to go crazy behind them. Brad's going to pull away and win. And so we get to this overtime restart. The front row is Keselowski and Jones. Keselowski gets a good jump. Everybody stacks up 2 and 3 wide behind him. Eric Jones and Clint Bowyer. Wait, that's later. Sorry. It was, I think, Eric Jones and Kyle Larson, I believe. Or no, it was Bowman. My apologies. It was actually Alex Bowman. I don't know why I was thinking of Larson there. Anyway, they were battling very hard for second, slide jobbing each other. They were just side drafting each other, everything in the books, door to door. Just letting Keselowski pull away. And Brad Keselowski held off the field to win at Kansas. I exactly 100% correct on what happened on that restart. But nonetheless, it was a bit of a simple finish for such a great race, but could have been better. But hey, you know what? It was a great race. Not going to complain at all. Brad Keselowski earned that win. Very emotional after the race. And yeah, one of his former car owner passed away earlier this week, and Brad knew him very well and was very emotional about that. But Brad Keselowski's third win of 2019, his second at Kansas. And on the cool-down lap, Eric Jones and Clint Bowyer door slamming on the backstretch. Bowyer came up, had a conversation with Jones after the race. There was no fighting, but there were some heated exchanges between the two. And what happened was they took the white flag, and Bowyer's closing in on Jones for second spot. And Jones he's on the bottom going into one. Bowyer's on the top. Jones just goes all the way up the racetrack, puts a huge block on Clint, and he ended up finishing fifth. Clint said, well, I should have just wrecked him, which that would have been bad because the field was stacked up behind him. It would have been a huge wreck. But anyway, so yeah, that was Kansas. Great action all weekend long. Brad Keselowski wins again. Team Penske and Joe Gibbs just continuing to rack up those wins. And so there you go. Alex Bowman came in second. He is the first driver, this was a stat they found, the first driver to have 3 straight second place finishes without getting their first career win. Pretty crazy stat. I love when they find those stats. It's pretty crazy. And to add on to that stat about him finishing in every single position possible other than first place that Mike Joy said last week, that's true. That's actually true because I don't know who found that stat, but that's crazy. So, yeah, there you go. But I'm sure Alex Bowman is going to get that first place sooner rather than later. He showed a lot of strength in this race tonight on Saturday night. So, here are your results. Brad Keselowski, Alex Bowman, Eric Jones, Chase Elliott, Clint Bowyer, the top 5. Very strong top 5 there. Jimmy Johnson, 6th place. He came up through there on one of those restarts. I was like, where in the world did he come from? It was like 20 to go. He was up in 4th place. The announcers are going crazy. Where did he come from? It was incredible. Great run for Jimmy Johnson. Kurt Busch had a solid run in this race, 7th. Kyle Larson, another top 10, 8th. Tyler Reddick, 9th. Chris Buescher, 10th. Great runs for both those guys, especially Chris Buescher. Ran in the top 10, I mean like all night long. So you got 11th through 20th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and then 12th through 14th, Eric Almirola, Kevin Harvick, Daniel Suarez. All 3 of them having tough nights, to say the least. 2 of them having to go to the back. Actually, when Suarez came in for a green flag pit stop, he got jacked in the rear by Martin Truex coming into the pits. I don't think that cost him too much time, but yeah, he was 14th. Logano was 15th. And we had 16th through 20th. Denny Hamlin, Austin Dillon, Daniel Hemrick, Martin Truex Jr., and William Byron. So Truex was really not able to recover from going to the back. But we had 21st through 30th, Matt Tifft, Corey LaJoie, Ryan Newman, Paul Menard, Ryan Preece, Michael McDowell, David Reagan, Ty Dillon, Bubba Wallace, and Kyle Busch 30th. And then rounding out the field, 31st through 40th, Ross Chastain, Ryan Blaney, Bailey Curry, Quinn Houff, Reed Sorensen, Matt DiBenedetto, Landon Castle, Joey Gase, Timmy Hill, and Cody Ware. That's Kansas, and this weekend we do not have a points paying race. We have the All-Star race. This weekend they will race for $1 million on Saturday night. Of course, we have the Monster Energy Open, that's what it's called, to try and get into the All-Star race. So we'll see how that goes. I'll be back on either Thursday or Friday, probably Friday, to preview the All-Star weekend. That is all. Everybody have a great day.